1954. A bedroom. The window cracked, and evening in Paris perfume warm on a cotton collar. She rolls a stocking over her knee. The date is tonight. The man is wrong, and she already knows it. She will end it without one rude word. That skill was erased. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how she found the right one using a system modern dating buried on purpose. From there, we are opening the vault on 5 chapters of the courtship system that built mid-century American marriages from the ground up. First, the unspoken dating rules every 1950s woman had to follow or face consequences that could reshape her entire social standing overnight. Then the centerpiece of everything you are about to watch, the secret first date test. A quiet, devastating system of observation that told a girl within the first hour whether the man across from her was worth a second evening or a polite goodbye. While mainstream etiquette books covered basic decorum, these subtle social tests were rarely written down. Every girl who knew it learned it the same way, passed down in whispers from women who had already tested every word of it on someone real. That segment alone will change the way you think about every date you have ever been on. After that, the 20 vanished ways couples actually met before modern dating culture transformed how couples connect. Then the invisible lines of 1960s dating, the things a woman would never dare do no matter how modern she thought she was. And finally, the cruel words society saved for any woman bold enough to date a much older man. 5 chapters, 1 system. It starts now. The system was enormous. It covered everything. How to meet a man, how to test him, how to hold his interest without losing your reputation, how to handle the ones who were wrong, and how to survive a world that judged every move you made and never once apologized for the judging. None of it was written in one place. All of it was known by heart. What follows are 5 pieces of that system, each one complete, each one filmed separately, assembled here for the first time in the order a woman would have actually lived them. Number 20. She never called a boy first. A girl did not pick up the telephone and call a boy. She waited. If he was interested, he called her on the family telephone, and whoever answered that phone was almost certainly not her. The rotary phone on the kitchen wall. The click, click, click of the dial coming back around. The long cord that barely reached the hallway. Her little brother listening from the next room. Party lines in smaller towns where neighbors could listen in. 17 magazine told girls plainly how to chase men until they catch you. The entire game was to signal interest without initiating. A glance across the cafeteria, a comment to his friend's sister, but never, under any circumstance, a direct phone call. It was absolutely unheard of for a woman to be so bold as to ask a gentleman on a date. If a girl called a boy's house, his mother answered, and his mother told every other mother at church on Sunday. The news spread faster than any gossip column ever could in a small town where everyone already knew your name. That telephone was not a device. It was a test of patience. And patience, in those years, was how a girl proved she understood her own worth. She did not chase. She chose from among those who had the nerve to dial. The consequence was plain. Only women considered floozies were forward enough to ask a guy out on a date first. That word, forward, could follow a girl through her entire high school career. One phone call to a boy's house, and the assumption was made, not by the boy, but by his mother. And mothers had long memories. Number 19. She never accepted a last-minute date. If a young man wanted to ask a lady out for a Friday night movie, he had to inquire by Wednesday at the very latest. Asking someone for a date the day of was a big no, and it was considered to be in very poor taste. A girl who said yes to a Saturday call on Saturday afternoon was telling the world she had nothing better to do. A woman's popularity depended on building and maintaining the impression that she was greatly in demand. Turn down requests made at the last minute. Be seen with popular young men in the right places. Cultivate the appearance of a full calendar. The girls who mastered this never appeared desperate, and desperation was the one thing no amount of beauty could overcome. Saying no to a last-minute date was not playing games. It was protecting something invisible, the perception that her time had value. A girl who was booked was a girl who was wanted, and a girl who was wanted had options. That was the unwritten math, and every girl understood it by the time she turned 15. Her grandmother had taught her mother, and her mother had taught her. The lesson never needed a textbook because it lived in the family like an heirloom, passed down through kitchen table conversations and knowing glances. Number 18. She was ready at the door when he arrived. Completely ready before the doorbell rang. A woman was supposed to be completely ready when the gentleman arrived. Running around to apply makeup at the last minute was considered inconsiderate. Any longer than 5 minutes after the doorbell rang would be extremely rude. Pin curls set the night before. Tangy lipstick in natural, 50 cents at the drugstore counter. A dab of Evening in Paris perfume from the blue cobalt bottle, $1.25 at Woolworth's. Everything done before the doorbell rang. She came down the stairs, put together, unhurried, as though she had not spent 90 minutes getting there. The effort was invisible by design. What he saw was the finished version, calm, composed, and worth the wait. That was the craft, not vanity, presentation. The illusion of effortlessness was the highest skill a young woman could master in those years. Making a boy sit on the couch with her father for too long turned the evening awkward before it started. But worse than that, a girl who kept people waiting was labeled difficult, and difficult was a word that closed doors before they ever opened. Number 17. She introduced every date to her parents. In the 1950s, it was customary for girls to introduce all dates to their parents before heading out the door. It was not optional. Teen dating guides encouraged girls to only go out with people their families had met and approved of. The boy standing in the living room, her father rising from his chair. What school did he attend? What church did he attend? What does your father do? The mother in the kitchen doorway, drying her hands on a dish towel, saying nothing but seeing everything. Marion Barclay's Teen Guide to Homemaking, published in 1961, stated it clearly. It is a good idea to have your family meet and approve of the people you know. A boy who could not look her father in the eye was a boy who had something to hide. That introduction was not a formality. It was an inspection. Skip this step, sneak out, meet him at the corner, and her mother would tell the neighbor's mother. By Wednesday, every parent on the block knew she was seeing someone without approval. Unapproved dating was one step from being unsupervised, and that was one step from being talked about. Number 16. She wore the right thing and dressed for his mother. A girl dressed for a date, but the real audience was not the boy. It was every adult who saw her. His mother, most of all. A cotton dress with a Peter Pan collar, saddle shoes for the soda fountain, low heels, and a cardigan for the picture show. A circle skirt for the dance, not too full, not too tight. Hemline at the knee or just below. The Sears Roebuck catalog devoted pages to dresses suitable for dates, with options running from cotton day dresses to more formal evening wear. Her mother ironed it. Her grandmother checked the neckline. No bare shoulders unless it was a formal. Red lipstick or a red dress on a younger girl raised eyebrows. The wrong outfit could disqualify her before she ever opened her mouth to speak a single word. She was not dressing for his approval. She was dressing to pass a test she might never be told she was taking. The way his mother looked at her hemline in the church vestibule 3 Sundays later would decide whether she was ever invited to Sunday dinner. Show up with too much skin, and she was that kind of girl. His mother made one judgment in 3 seconds, and that judgment could end a courtship before the second date. Number 15. She never primped in public. A compact could come out for one quick check, but fixing her hair, reapplying lipstick at the table, powdering her nose in front of anyone, that was forbidden. A compact from the department store counter, gold-toned, $2 or $3. She could open it briefly, glance, close. The restroom was the only acceptable place. A girl who fussed with her appearance in public was telling the room she was not finished, that she was still under construction. The rule was simple: be done before you arrive. After that, you are not a girl getting ready. You are a woman who is present. Vanity on display suggested insecurity, and insecurity was something a well-raised girl never let the world see. Number 14. She let him order for her. It was considered rude for a woman to place her order directly with the waitstaff. She told her date what she wanted, and he relayed it. The diner booth at Howard Johnson's, red vinyl seats. She looked at the menu, decided, leaned in, and told him quietly. He spoke to the waitress. In the 1950s, a date was viewed as a social event, and the man was regarded as the host. A cherry Coke for a dime. A grilled cheese sandwich, 20 cents. He ordered both without hesitation. The waitress wrote it down and never once looked at her for confirmation, because that was how it was done. She did not surrender her preference. She communicated it. The difference is everything. He was the voice at the table. She was the one who decided what that voice would say. Number 13. There were foods she would not eat on a date. No corn on the cob, no spaghetti, too much twirling, too much risk. No fried chicken eaten with the hands, no lobster that required cracking and picking. Nothing that dripped, nothing that splattered, nothing that demanded a second napkin. A dating guide from the British magazine Woman's Own warned that fruits could cause embarrassment in restaurants. Cherries should be put in the mouth whole and the stones carefully placed on a spoon. A girl ordered things she could eat neatly with a fork. A patty melt, a club sandwich cut into quarters, a slice of pie, always with a fork, never the fingers. She studied the menu not for what she wanted most, but for what she could eat most gracefully. It was not about hunger, it was about composure. Messy eating signaled she had not been taught, and had not been taught meant her mother had failed. A daughter's table manners reflected her entire household. One dropped piece of spaghetti on a white blouse could undo an entire evening's careful presentation. Number 12. She kept her knees together, her back straight, and her hands visible. Posture was not optional. A girl's body language on a date was read like a headline: knees together, angled to one side, ankles crossed, never the legs. Hands on the table or in her lap. No elbows on the counter. At the movies, her hands stayed in her own lap unless he reached for one. Emily Post's Etiquette, Revised Edition 1955, addressed how a young woman should carry herself in public, including her posture and how she sat. A slouch told the room that nobody at home had cared enough to correct her before she left the house. Her posture was a telegraph. Straight back meant self-respect. Crossed ankles meant composure. Hands visible meant nothing to hide. Every woman in that generation knew. You are being read before you are being heard. Number 11. She was expected to date around before going steady. Many parents in the 1950s wanted teens to date around. Going steady too soon was considered limiting. Variety was how you figured out what and who really fit. A girl with one boyfriend by sophomore year raised eyebrows. The proper thing was to accept dates from several boys, the soda fountain with one, the picture show with another, the school dance with a third. A girl's dance card was a measure of her social standing. The girl with the most names was the most desirable, not because she was loose, but because she was in demand. A girl who dated widely was considered well-rounded and socially mature, not scattered or fickle. Playing the field was not a game, it was an education. A girl who had dated 3 or 4 boys before settling on one understood what she wanted and what she would not accept. That knowledge was her armor. Stop and notice something. Not a single rule so far has been about what she felt. Every one has been about what she showed: the posture, the fork, the hemline, the dance card. A girl in 1955 lived inside a display case. These were not restrictions designed to punish her. They were the grammar of a language every woman was expected to speak fluently. Composure was not a performance, it was survival. And today, when 63% of young men under 30 in America describe themselves as single and the marriage rate has fallen to its lowest point in recorded American history, it is worth asking what was lost when those standards disappeared. Not the rigidity, not the silence, but the structure, the clarity, the sense that someone was watching because someone cared. Number 10. The 3-date rule before a kiss. Kissing on a first date often meant the end of the relationship right then. The unspoken standard was 3 dates minimum before a kiss. The end of the evening on the front porch. The yellow light above the door. His hands in his pockets. Her back against the screen door. 3 dates. 3 tests. After the third, maybe a brief kiss, lips closed, chaste enough that if her younger sister was watching through the curtain, no one would be embarrassed. That small restraint built more anticipation than any grand romantic gesture ever could between 2 young people. The wait was not cruelty. It was a filter. A boy who stayed through 3 evenings of conversation without pressing for more was a boy interested in her, not in what he could take from her. The 3-date rule did not suppress desire. It revealed character. A kiss on the first date, and word traveled by Monday morning. The word, once it went out, did not come off. It stayed. Number 9. Drive-in behavior had invisible boundaries. Over 4,000 drive-in theaters across America by 1958, $1 per car at most. The speaker clipped to the driver's side window. The second feature started at 9:30. The girl sat on her side. If he put his arm on the back of the seat, she allowed it or she did not. If his hand moved lower, she moved it. There were police on patrol at every drive-in, shining flashlights into back seats. Communities set up watchdog forces specifically to break up what they called unseemly activity. Local churches lobbied town councils to shut down drive-ins entirely because they believed temptation thrived in darkness. The drive-in was the first private space most young couples ever shared, and inside that privacy, a girl carried every rule she had ever learned. Not because her father was watching, because she had decided before the opening credits exactly what she would and would not allow. That decision made in advance was the real rule, not the flashlight, not the patrol. The girl's own mind, already made up before the car was parked. Those rules were the walls, but inside those walls, a woman had her own private test. One she ran before the salad plates were cleared, and it told her everything she needed to know before he ever said a word. She never needed a second date to confirm what she already suspected by dessert. The rules kept her safe, but the test kept her sharp. Number 15. She watched whether he came to the front door. The first test started before she even saw his face. She listened. A car horn from the curb meant the evening was already over. What she waited for was the sound of a car door closing, then footsteps on the front walkway, then the doorbell. Her father sat in the armchair with the evening paper, not reading it. Her mother had switched the porch light on 5 minutes early. If the boy honked from the street, the girl did not go outside. There was no discussion. Her mother had one line for it. If he cannot walk 30 feet to your front door, he will not walk through anything hard for you either. No second chance. The front door was the first gate. A man who would not pass through it never got to the second one. Number 14. She checked his fingernails before she checked his face. Within the first 10 seconds, her eyes went to his hands. The handshake with her father, the arm he offered. She was not looking at his suit or his jawline. She was looking at his nails, clean, trimmed, scrubbed. It did not matter if he worked a factory line at Bethlehem Steel or stocked shelves at the A&P. What mattered was whether he cared enough to clean up before he came for her. A Sears work shirt cost $1.90. Ivory soap cost a dime. A nail brush cost a nickel. Effort was free. A man who cleaned his hands before he touched hers was telling her something he never had to say out loud. Number 13. She listened to how he spoke to her father. He did not simply pick her up. He presented himself at the front door like a man with business to conduct. The handshake. Good evening, sir. Eye contact held but not forced. Her father asking where they were going and what time she would be home. She stood in the hallway listening, sometimes at the top of the stairs. She was not part of this conversation. She did not need to be. If his voice got smaller, she heard it. If it got too smooth, she heard that too. The house was quiet enough to hear a liar. She did not need her father's approval. She needed to hear the boy speak when he thought she was not the audience. Now this next one might seem small, but the girls who knew it never forgot it. Number 12. She noticed whether he walked on the street side of the sidewalk. When they walked together, she noted which side he took. The curb side. Always. So if a car jumped the curb or a puddle splashed, he caught it. This rule was older than the automobile. It came from the days when slop was dumped from upper windows onto the road below. By the 1950s, it was muscle memory. A boy raised right did it without thinking. He shifted sides at every crossing. She never once asked him to. She just watched whether he did. Protection that required no announcement was the only kind she trusted. Number 11. She watched his shoes. After his hands, his shoes. Polished, or at least clean. Florsheim Imperials if his family had money. Jarman or Freeman if they did not. The leather buffed with kiwi shoe polish from the flat tin, the lid pried off with a thumbnail, the brush working in circles, the rag buffing to a shine. 3 minutes of effort on a bedroom floor. She could see it, or she could see its absence. Scuffed shoes on a first date told her he either did not care or did not know. Both were problems. Her mother told her once and she never forgot it. A man's shoes tell you where he has been and where he thinks he is going. 5 tests in, and not a single one of them involved a word he said to her. Every test so far was about what he did when no one was grading him. The 1950s girl was not looking for a performance. She was looking for a pattern. A man who performs on a first date will eventually stop performing. A man who simply is that way will not. That was the difference she was trained to find. Number 10. She watched how he treated the waitress, the diner, the drive-in, the soda fountain counter. She watched his mouth, but not when he was talking to her. She watched it when he spoke to the person serving their food. A Howard Johnson's on Route 9. A Woolworth's lunch counter with red vinyl stools. A car hop at the A&W skating up to the window with a metal tray. Did he say thank you without being reminded? Did he look the waitress in the eye? Did he snap his fingers? Did he complain about the coffee? A cheeseburger plate ran 65 cents. A slice of pie, 35. The tip was a dime, left face up on the Formica counter. How a man treats someone who can do nothing for him is who he actually is. She knew that at 17. Some people never learn it. Number 9. She listened for whether he mentioned his mother. Not a speech, not a complaint, just whether she existed somewhere in his conversation. My mother makes a pot roast every Sunday. My mother worked at the telephone exchange before I was born. A sentence, maybe two. Said the way you mentioned someone who shaped you. Not a mama's boy tribute. Not silence either. If he never mentioned her at all, it told the girl one of two things. Either the relationship was broken, or he did not think women were worth mentioning. Both were written down in her mind before dessert arrived. A man who could speak about his mother with quiet, easy respect was a man who had been taught that women had weight in this world. And a boy who had never learned that was not going to learn it from a girl over a root beer float. But the next test was the one the mothers talked about most. Number 8. She noticed whether he opened every door, not just the first one. The car door at her house. That was easy. Every boy did that one because her father was watching. The real test was the rest of the evening. The restaurant door, the second car door at the diner, the door leaving the movie theater, the door back at her front porch at the end of the night. He walks around. She waits. Not because she cannot open a door, because she is watching whether his courtesy has a shelf life. The first door is the audition. The fourth door is the man. Consistency was the only test that mattered, and it could not be faked for an entire evening. Number 7. She watched whether he carried a clean handkerchief, folded in the back pocket or the breast pocket of his sport coat, white cotton, pressed flat with a steam iron. Not for him, for her. In case she got something on her hands at the drive-in, in case her eyes watered at the picture show, in case the August humidity made her blotting powder give up. An Aero brand handkerchief, 2 for 49 cents at the department store. A man who carried one had been taught something most boys today have never heard. That someone else's comfort comes before your own convenience. That square of white cotton was the smallest thing he carried and the loudest thing it said. None of these tests required money. Not one. The boy driving a used 1949 Ford with rust on the fender passed the same tests as the boy in his father's new Buick Roadmaster. That was the genius of the whole system. It screened for character, not income. The mothers who designed these tests had married during the Depression. They watched men lose jobs, lose homes, lose everything but what was inside them. They knew exactly how fast money disappears, and they knew exactly how slow character does. Number 6. She watched how he handled the check. He paid. That was not the test. How he paid was the test. The check placed face down on the table by the waitress. He picked it up without looking at it first. No wince. No comment about the price. No joke about what she ordered. He placed the bills inside the check folder, left the tip separately on the table, and stood up. A dinner for two at a decent restaurant in 1955 cost about $3.50. He probably made $40 a week. He did not mention either number. The test was not whether he could afford the meal. It was whether he could carry a weight without making her feel it. Number 5. She noticed what he ordered and whether he ordered for her, the waitress standing with a pencil and a green order pad. He turned to the girl first. "What looks good to you?" She told him. He turned to the waitress and placed both orders from memory. If she wanted the roast chicken, he said roast chicken. He did not substitute. He did not improve upon it. He did not suggest the cheaper plate. He relayed her words exactly as she said them. This was not control. This was public courtesy. He was her representative at the table, and his only job was to represent her accurately, listening to a woman and then speaking her words exactly as she gave them. There may be no rarer skill in any century. Number 4. She watched whether he kept his hands to himself. The entire evening, every single minute, a hand on the small of her back guiding her through a doorway. That was fine. An arm offered for the walk from the car, also fine. Anything beyond that on a first date, and the evening was over in her mind, even if her face did not show it. The arm that crept along the back of the movie theater seat at the Rialto. The hand that drifted toward a knee under the table. She said nothing. She moved. 1 inch. And that 1 inch was the loudest word she spoke all night. Restraint was the test. The young men who passed it were the ones who understood that patience is not the absence of wanting. It is the proof of respect. Every one of these tests was designed by women who could not easily leave a bad marriage. Divorce in the 1950s was a scandal that followed you for life. Alimony was often legally difficult to secure, and though mothers were increasingly favored in custody battles under the tender years doctrine, a divorced woman faced devastating financial and social hurdles. These mothers were not playing games on a Friday night. They were conducting the most important interview of their daughter's life. And they gave her 1 evening to get the answer right. Number 3. She watched what time he brought her home. 10 o'clock, sometimes 9:30. The curfew was set by her father. It was not negotiable, and it was not a suggestion. The porch light on. Her father's shadow behind the screen door. The car pulling into the driveway 5 minutes early. Not 5 minutes late. 5 minutes early meant he respected the house. 5 minutes late meant he thought the rules bent for him. A Timex on his wrist, $3.95 from the Sears catalog. He checked it at the movie. He checked it during dessert. He was not bored. He was proving something. A man who could manage time on a date could manage a household, a paycheck, and a promise. The clock was the one test nobody argued with. Number 2. She told her mother everything, and her mother already knew half of it. The real test did not happen on the date. It happened in the kitchen afterward. 11 o'clock at night, the kitchen light still burning, her mother sitting at the Formica table with a cup of Sanka and a plate of Lorna Doones. The girl sat down, and her mother did not ask, "Did you have a good time?" She asked, "What did he do?" and the girl reported. Every door, every word to the waitress, the shoes, the handkerchief, the hands, the time. Her mother sipped and listened and nodded. Sometimes she said, "See him again." Sometimes she said nothing at all. And the nothing was the answer. 2 women at a kitchen table running a debrief that no business school could improve upon. The intelligence was shared. The judgment was final. Number 1. The real test was whether she could see him, sitting in her father's chair. This one was never spoken out loud. It lived in a single image she carried all evening long. Her father's chair. The one by the window in the living room. The one at the head of the dinner table. The chair where the bills got opened and the newspaper got read, and the hard news got delivered. Could she see this boy sitting in that chair in 20 years? This nervous, clean fingernail, polished shoe, door-opening boy. Could she see him holding a baby the way her father held her, carving a turkey at Thanksgiving, sitting up at 2 in the morning with a sick child pressed against his chest? She was not asking whether he made her heart race. She was asking whether he could carry the life she already knew was coming. Romance was a luxury. Reliability was a religion. And the girl who could tell the difference at 17 had been taught by a woman who learned it the hard way. Somewhere right now, a woman in her 80s remembers every single one. Not because someone reminded her, because the boy who passed them all is sitting in the next room, 70 years later, and he still opens every door. She knew how to read him. She always did. But the question that came before the test, the one nobody thinks to ask anymore, is simpler than it sounds. Where on earth did she find him in the first place? Before she could test a man, she had to place herself somewhere he actually existed. And those places have almost entirely vanished from modern life. Number 20. The church basement social. Churches held regular socials, potluck suppers, pie auctions, ice cream socials, holiday bazaars. Single men and women came because the entire community came. Methodist, Baptist, Lutheran. The denomination did not matter. What mattered was the basement. Fluorescent lights humming over long tables covered in white paper. Casserole dishes brought in Pyrex with masking tape on the bottom so the dish came home. The smell of coffee from a 40-cup percolator and sheet cake cut into squares. Girls helping in the kitchen. Boys lined along the wall. Somebody's mother watching from the dessert table. A quarter dropped in the donation basket at the door. The whole evening cost nothing. Nobody called it matchmaking. They called it Wednesday night supper. But every woman who married a man from that church knew what those suppers were for. The introduction happened over a paper plate. Both mothers already knew before either child did. In 1955, 49% of Americans attended church every week, the highest figure Gallup ever recorded. Today, that number sits around 30%. The Wednesday night supper went with it. Number 19. The shared party line. Families across rural and suburban America shared a single telephone line with their neighbors. You could hear every conversation on the wire. Some couples met because they had been listening to each other for months. In 1950, 75% of Bell System residential phone customers were on party lines. About 11 million subscribers shared the same wire. There was a Western Electric Model 500, black and heavy as a brick. Each household had its own ring pattern, 2 short and 1 long for the Hendersons, 1 long and 2 short for the Millers. If you lifted the receiver quietly and covered the mouthpiece, you could hear everything. A girl's voice talking to her sister about Saturday. A boy 3 farms over, listening. The film Pillow Talk in 1959 built its entire romance around a shared party line. Doris Day and Rock Hudson fought over the wire until they fell in love on it. By the mid-1960s, private lines became the standard. The shared wire went silent, and with it went the strangest, most accidental form of courtship America ever invented. You fell in love with a voice before you ever saw a face. No photograph, no profile, just the sound of someone being themselves when they thought nobody was listening. Number 18, the roller skating rink. Roller rinks were the social hubs of small-town America. Teenagers went on Friday and Saturday nights. The couple's only skate was when it happened. You could smell varnished hardwood and rented leather boots. Organ music played before the DJ switched to 45s. Admission was 50 cents. Skate rental was a quarter. The overhead lights dimmed for the couple's skate. A boy rolled up beside a girl he had been watching for half an hour. He held out his hand. She took it. For 3 minutes, under a rotating mirror ball, they held onto each other at 15 miles an hour. Neither one let go. The rink was the only place a boy could hold a girl's hand in public without anyone raising an eyebrow. The excuse was balance. The truth was something else entirely. Number 17. The soda fountain. The drugstore soda fountain reached its peak between the 1920s and the 1950s. For a generation, it was the center of American social life. Rexall, Walgreens, the corner drugstore with a marble counter and chrome stools that swiveled, a cherry Coke for a dime, a chocolate malt for 15 cents. The man behind the counter in his white paper hat, pulling the chrome handles, a courting couple sharing one glass with 2 paper straws. A boy slid onto the stool next to a girl he recognized from school. He said nothing remarkable. She laughed anyway. He bought her a second Coke. 10 cents to change a life. Then sodas were bottled and sold everywhere. People stopped coming to the counter. When the soda fountain closed, the only place in town where a boy could sit next to a girl without a reason closed with it. Number 16. The county fair midway. County and state fairs drew entire communities once a year. Young men and women who lived miles apart met on the midway at the livestock barns in the grandstand. Late August heat and the smell of funnel cake grease and sawdust. The Ferris wheel lit against a darkening sky. A boy won a stuffed bear at the ring toss for 35 cents and gave it to a girl standing 3 people back. She did not know his name. She carried that bear home in the bed of her father's pickup. The tilt-a-whirl threw them against each other. She did not pull away. The fair lasted 1 week a year. That was enough. Some families drove 40 miles on dirt roads to get there, not for the rides, but for the chance to be seen. For 1 week, the whole county was in one place, and in one place, anything could happen. Number 15. The USO Dance. The United Service Organizations formed in 1941 to provide recreation for troops on leave. Young women volunteered as hostesses. They danced with soldiers, sailors, and airmen. Many married the men they met on that floor. Big band music on a scratchy PA system. Crepe-soled shoes on a gymnasium floor. A boy in dress uniform who had never danced before. A girl who taught him the box step in under a minute. Coffee and donuts served from a folding table. Hostesses were told not to date the servicemen. That was the rule. One woman agreed to say the numbers out loud, but not write them down. By the time she reached her room at the YMCA, the phone was ringing. After 6 dates, they married in September 1945. She danced with a stranger in uniform on a Saturday night. 50 years later, she was still married to him. Number 14. The typing pool and the factory floor. Women worked as typists, secretaries, and switchboard operators. Others worked assembly lines. Men worked in the same buildings. Proximity did the rest. You could hear the clatter of Royal typewriters in rows. Carbon paper stained fingertips. A young man from accounting walked past the typing pool every morning at 8:15. He nodded on Monday. He said good morning on Wednesday. By Friday, he asked if she wanted coffee from the cart. The factory version was louder, stamping presses and conveyor belts, a lunch whistle at noon. She sat on an overturned crate eating a sandwich from a brown bag. He sat down beside her on the same crate, same break, every day for 3 months until he finally asked. Nobody scheduled it. Nobody swiped right. He just showed up at the same place at the same time until showing up became the point. The workplace did not try to create romance. It just put two people close enough together for long enough that nature handled the rest. Number 13. The boarding house dining table. Young people who moved to cities for work often lived in boarding houses, rooming houses with shared meals. They met at the breakfast table, at dinner, on the front steps. $7 a week for a room and 2 meals a day. A landlady who ran the house like a captain runs a ship. Boarders sat at a long table at 6:30 sharp. Pot roast on Tuesday. Meatloaf on Thursday. A young woman from Scranton with a secretarial job. A young man apprenticing at the machine shop on Broad Street. They passed the breadbasket, said excuse me, and learned each other over months of suppers eaten 3 feet apart. There was no first date. There was no grand gesture. Just a slow accumulation of small moments. The way she held her coffee cup. The way he always stood when she entered the room. Intimacy built not from excitement, but from repetition. By the time he asked her to walk with him on a Sunday afternoon, she already knew the answer. She had known it since the second week. Number 12. The Woolworths lunch counter. Woolworths 5 and dime stores had lunch counters where anyone could sit down for a cheap meal. No reservation, no plan, just a stool. Red vinyl stools bolted to the floor. Formica wiped clean with a rag. Grilled cheese for 15 cents. Coffee for a nickel. First come, first served. You sat next to whoever showed up. A girl who came in every Tuesday and ordered the same thing. A boy who noticed. The waitress noticed too and started seating him one stool closer. Woolworths closed its last American store in 1997. 400 locations, gone. And with them went the last counter where a stranger could sit down for a nickel and discover that the rest of his life was one stool over. Number 11. The blind date arranged by your aunt. Aunts, older cousins, and church ladies arranged introductions between young people they considered a match. It was practically a civic duty. Your Aunt Lorraine saw a young man at the Knights of Columbus fish fry. He worked at the phone company, had good posture, and did not drink. She got his mother's name from someone at the parish and called on Monday. By Thursday, your mother told you to put on your good dress. You were going to Aunt Lorraine's on Saturday, and a young man named Gerald would be there. You protested, and then you went. Gerald brought flowers for your aunt, and he pulled out your chair. You married him in 11 months. It was not romantic, and it was not spontaneous. It was an older woman who survived her own marriage, deciding she was qualified to start yours. She was usually right. Number 10. The high school dance. The high school dance was where going steady began. Homecoming, prom, Sadie Hawkins. A gymnasium draped in streamers and paper lanterns strung from the basketball hoops. The band was 5 boys from the junior class who knew 4 songs. He put his class ring on a chain around her neck. That ring weighed half an ounce and meant everything. A slow dance at arm's length because the chaperone was watching. Going steady in the 50s required a visible token, a class ring, a letterman sweater, something the whole school could see. She wore his ring on a chain for 6 months. Then she wore his name for 50 years. Number 9. The hayride. Churches and farm families organized hayrides every autumn. Flatbed wagons were pulled by a John Deere tractor along country roads at dusk, and young people sat in the hay in the dark together. A John Deere pulled a flatbed stacked with straw bales. A kerosene lantern hung on the back rail. The smell of dry hay, October air, and Wrigley's spearmint gum filled the night. 15 teenagers packed onto the wagon. Somewhere past the Miller farm, when the lantern swung the other way, a boy put his arm around a girl's shoulder. She let it stay. The chaperone was up front on the tractor and could not see a thing. The wagon rolled for an hour through back roads that had no streetlights, just stars, the low rumble of the engine, and the sound of somebody laughing in the dark. By the time the tractor turned back toward the church parking lot, two people who had barely spoken that morning were holding hands under a horse blanket. An entire courtship started, and no one spent a dime. Number 8. The Saturday Night Dance Hall. Public dance halls operated in nearly every American town. Admission was low, the floor was open, a live band played on a wooden stage. The hardwood floor was dusted with cornmeal to make the shoes slide. 50 cents for men, 25 cents for women. He crossed the floor to ask her to dance. She could say no. She could say yes. If she said yes, they had 3 minutes of music, his hand on the small of her back, and a conversation held close enough to smell her ivory soap. A slow number at the end of the night decided who was driving whom home. No swiping, no matching. Just a man walking across a room, in front of everyone he knew, asking a woman to dance. The risk was public. That is exactly what made the courage mean something. Number 7. The Lonely Hearts column. Newspapers ran personal advertisements in the classifieds. 2 lines describing yourself and what you wanted. Replies came by mail. Young man, 28, steady employment, seeks sincere woman for friendship and possible marriage. Enjoys fishing and church. Write box 412. 3 cents a word. She read it at the kitchen table over coffee. She wrote a careful letter on good stationery. She sealed it. She mailed it to a post office box. His reply arrived 9 days later. The penmanship was neat. He spelled everything correctly. That mattered. They call it a dating app now. In 1952, they called it 3 cents a word and a stamp. Number 6. The drive-in theater. Drive-in theaters were group social events. Teenagers went in carloads. A boy met a girl because she rode with his buddy's date, or she was parked 1 row over. It cost $1 a carload at some theaters. A speaker box hooked on the window crackled and hummed. 6 teenagers packed into a 1953 Chevy Bel Air. 2 couples and 2 singles. The boy in the back had never met the girl up front. By the second feature, they were sharing popcorn and pretending to watch the screen. At their peak, 4,000 drive-in theaters operated across America. About 330 remain. And with them went the only place where a car full of teenagers could arrange an introduction without a single adult knowing. Number 5. The military pen pal. During and after the wars, young women wrote letters to servicemen they had never met. Churches and the Red Cross organized the introductions. Some of those letters became marriages. A 3-cent stamp, a name and serial number pinned to a church bulletin board. She wrote to a soldier in Korea she had never seen. He wrote back from a tent on a hillside with a pencil stub. The letters took 2 weeks each way. She described the weather in Indiana. He described nothing about the war. Over 6 months, they built a version of each other made entirely of words. When he stepped onto her porch with his duffel bag, she recognized his handwriting before she recognized his face. A letter is a commitment. You cannot unsend it. You cannot edit it at midnight. It arrives in your own hand and says exactly what you meant. Number 4. The Sunday evening walk. In towns across America, families walked after supper on Sunday evenings, down Main Street, past the park, along the sidewalk. Young people saw each other, nodded, stopped, talked. 6 o'clock in June. The dishes done. The screen door banging shut. A girl in a pressed skirt walking the same 4 blocks she had walked every Sunday since she was 12. A boy on the opposite sidewalk who tipped his hat. He crossed the street and fell into step beside her. They walked the 4 blocks twice and said almost nothing. He walked her home. He came back the following Sunday and the one after that. No car, no money, no plan. Just a sidewalk and the willingness to walk the same direction and see what happened. Number 3. The Fraternal Lodge Dance. The Elks, the Moose, the VFW, the Knights of Columbus. Every fraternal organization held regular dances and dinners. Members brought families, young people met. The Elks Lodge on Route 9, gravel parking lot and a neon sign out front. Dinner dance on the first Saturday of the month. Prime rib, $2.50 a plate, a 4-piece combo on a riser in the corner. His father was an elk. Her father was an elk. They had been in the same room 100 times as children. Then she turned 17 and something changed. He asked her to dance because his father told him to. She said yes because her mother was watching. In their early 20th century peak, fraternal orders counted nearly 1 in 3 American men as members. Most of those halls sit dark now. The neon is off. The parking lots are cracked, and the social life they once provided has no replacement. Number 2. The front porch. The front porch was the stage where courtship was performed. It was not a room. It was a statement. A porch swing on a chain that creaked. A glass of iced tea sweating on the railing. Fireflies rising from the yard. A boy parked at the curb and walked up the front path where her father could see him coming. He sat with the family first and talked to her father about the weather, about work, and about nothing. Her mother brought lemonade. Then, and only then, the 2 of them were left on the swing. Front door open, kitchen light on. The whole neighborhood watching. That was the point. Those meeting places shaped everything. But as the calendar turned into the 1960s, the rules did not just shift. Some of them reversed entirely. And the distance between bold and unforgivable had never been thinner. A woman could do everything right by one decade's standard and still be condemned by the next. The ground moved under her without warning, and she was expected to move with it flawlessly. Number 20. She never let him honk from the curb. He came to the door. He rang the bell. He met whoever was home. If he sat in the car and honked the horn, there was no date. A Ford Galaxy 500 idling at the curb with the headlights cutting through the dusk. The creak of the screen door, her father standing up from his chair in the living room. The handshake, the dry palm. A short conversation about nothing important. Then the walk to the car. He went around to the passenger side and opened her door before he opened his own. The dome light on for a moment. The click of the latch. The doorbell was not a formality. It was the first test. A boy who would not walk 30 feet to her front door would not walk much further for anything else. She knew that before she knew how to say it. But before the doorbell ever rang, before he even pulled up to the curb, there was something she would never do. Something that took more discipline than any other rule on this list. Number 19. She never called him first. She did not pick up the telephone to call a boy. Not first. Not ever. If she liked him, she waited. The call was his to make. The rotary phone mounted on the kitchen wall. The long spiral cord stretched around the corner into the hallway for whatever privacy it could give. In many homes, a party line shared by 2 or 3 families on the block. Everyone could hear the weight of the black Bakelite receiver, sitting at the kitchen table on a Tuesday night, willing that phone to ring, not touching it, not even looking at it too long. The waiting was not weakness. It was a decision. She chose not to chase. And in that silence, she taught him something no words ever could. Her attention had to be earned. It was not simply available. Number 18. She never wore pants on a date. A date meant a dress or a skirt. Slacks were for the garden, for Saturday errands, not for a Friday night. A shirt-waist dress with a full skirt, hemmed just below the knee. Cotton or a Dacron polyester blend from the Sears catalog. Stockings held up by a garter belt or the clips on a girdle. Pantyhose were around but would not completely replace stockings and girdles until later in the decade. A pair of kitten heels from the Tom McCann shoe store at $3.95. The stiff rustle of crinoline underneath. The way the skirt moved when she turned. The seam running straight up the back of each stocking, perfectly aligned. Her sister checked it for her before she left the bedroom. She dressed for the occasion because the occasion deserved it. Some hours in the week were not ordinary. They should not look that way. Number 17. She never left the house without her girdle. Under the dress, under the slip, there was a girdle. A panty girdle or a roll-on. She did not go on a date without one, no matter her size. A Playtex living girdle at $4 or $5 from the department store. The stretch of it going on. The snap of the metal garter clips fastening onto the stocking tops. A full nylon slip over the top with a lace hem. Architecture beneath the dress that nobody would ever see. Nobody asked her to explain it. Nobody saw it. But she knew it was there. It mattered to her, not because of him, because of the line she held between dressed and finished. Number 16. She never left the house without her full face on. She did not walk out that door half done. Foundation, powder, lipstick, mascara, every single time. Max Factor Pancake Foundation, matte and smooth. A pressed powder compact for touch-ups through the evening. Revlon Super Lustrous Lipstick at $1.10. Maybelline Cake Mascara, the kind you had to wet with a tiny brush. A dab of Evening in Paris or white shoulders behind each ear. The click of the compact closing in the quiet bedroom. The blot of lipstick on a tissue folded in half. She did not leave the house unfinished. Not for him, for herself. The face she put on was the face. She chose to show. Choosing was the whole point. 5 things in. Notice something. Not one of them was about impressing him. Every single one was about the standard she held for herself before the evening began. She had a code, and the code was hers. Nobody sold it to her. Nobody renewed it monthly. Nobody posted it online for strangers to approve. She carried it the way she carried her handbag. Close, quiet, and never open for inspection. Number 15. She never applied makeup at the dinner table. The compact stayed in the purse. If she needed to touch up her lipstick, she excused herself to the powder room. The small patent leather clutch with the snap closure. Inside, the compact, a tube of lipstick, a clean handkerchief, a few folded dollar bills for an emergency taxi home. She said, "Excuse me," and found the ladies' room, the fluorescent light above the mirror, the click of the compact hinge. One quick reapplication. Back at the table in 3 minutes. The result was public. The process was not. That distinction mattered to her. She did not confuse grooming with conversation. And when she got back to that table, another rule was waiting. One that sounds impossible to the modern ear, but was standard practice in every restaurant in America. Number 14. She never ordered for herself. He ordered for both of them. She told him what she wanted before the waiter arrived. He spoke to the waiter. She did not. A supper club with white tablecloths and a candle flickering in a red glass holder. The waiter in a black vest with a pad and pencil. She leaned in and told him she thought she would like the chicken. He nodded. When the waiter came, he ordered the chicken for her and the steak for himself. A sit-down dinner for two ran $3 to $5 per person in those years. It was not submission. It was choreography. Both people knew the steps. The dance only worked when neither one tried to lead and follow at the same time. Number 13. She never ordered something messy or difficult to eat. No spaghetti, no barbecue ribs, no corn on the cob. Nothing that required two hands or a bib or an apology. A chef salad, a petite filet, a club sandwich cut clean, small bites, napkin in the lap at all times. She never spoke with her mouth full. She never reached across the table. A cup of coffee at the end of the meal, cream and no sugar, held with both hands. The waitress refilled it without being asked. Good restaurants knew when to come and when to stay away. The meal was not the point. The company was. She ate to sustain the conversation, not to interrupt it. Number 12. She never had more than one drink, one cocktail, maybe a glass of wine, nursed slowly through the evening. That was the limit. A Tom Collins, a whiskey sour. A glass of Lancer's rose in the squat ceramic bottle. A cocktail cost 75 cents to $1 at a decent lounge in those years. She held the glass and she sipped. She did not finish it before the appetizer arrived. The condensation on the side of the glass. The slow turn of the stirrer between her fingers. Control was not a burden. It was a wall she built, and it stayed up all evening, no matter how well things were going, especially then. Number 11. She never split the check. She did not reach for the bill. She did not offer to pay half. She did not mention money at all. The black vinyl check holder sat on the white tablecloth. His hand reached for it. Her hand stayed in her lap or around her coffee cup. She said, "Thank you." She meant it. The whole dinner, 2 entrees, 2 drinks, and coffee came to maybe $8 or $9. He left $1 on the table for the waiter. It was not about the money. It was about letting him do what he came to do. Offering to split the bill would have embarrassed him. She did not embarrass people, not on purpose, not on a Saturday night. 10 rules in, and everyone sounds like a restriction. But ask a woman who lived by them, and she will tell you something the modern world does not want to hear. She felt more in control, not less. Every rule was a wall she built around her own dignity. She did not build those walls because someone told her to. She built them because she watched what happened to women who did not. Today, Americans spend billions of dollars a year on dating apps. Reported loneliness and social isolation have skyrocketed since the 1960s. More choices, more technology, more freedom, and somehow less of whatever it was that made 2 people sit across a table and actually see each other. The walls were not a prison, they were a fortress, and she held the key. Number 10. She never talked about a previous boyfriend. The question might come up. She redirected it. She asked about him instead, gave nothing away. Dessert at the diner, cherry pie, a la mode, coffee in a thick ceramic mug with a saucer. He asks if there was ever anyone serious. She smiles. She asks about his family instead. Her past was a locked drawer. She did not open it for someone she had known 3 hours. Her history was hers. She did not owe him a tour. The mystery she kept was not a game. It was the simple recognition that some things are earned over time, not offered over pie. She kept her past to herself. But there was a future she kept quiet about too, one she thought about far more than she would ever admit. Number 9. She never brought up marriage or the future, even if her mother asked every Sunday after church, even if her hope chest was already half full. She did not mention it, not on a first date, not on a 5th. The Lane cedar hope chest at the foot of her bed, $39.95 from the furniture store. Inside, embroidered pillowcases she stitched herself, a towel set from Sears, a set of silver plate from her grandmother. She had been filling it since she was 16. He would never know. She let the thing grow in its own time. Naming it too soon was a way of killing it. She understood something that required no education to learn. Patience is not the absence of desire. It is desire with discipline. Number 8. She never let the conversation go dead. She came prepared. She had things to talk about. Silence at a dinner table was not mysterious. It was failure. She read the paper that morning. She knew what was playing at the Rialto. She knew the score from Saturday. Ladies' Home Journal ran regular columns on conversation starters for dates. She kept the rhythm going the way a drummer keeps time. A question. A laugh. An observation. Another question. She did not show up empty. She came to the table, ready to hold her half of the evening. That was not effort. That was respect for the occasion and for herself. Number 7. She never argued with him in public. If he said something she disagreed with, about politics, about Kennedy, about the neighbors, she held her tongue at the table. The discussion would happen later. Or never. The low murmur of the restaurant, other couples at nearby tables, the clink of silverware on china. He says something she knows is wrong. She sips her coffee. She says, "That is interesting." She changes the subject. If it mattered enough, she would bring it up in the car on the way home, quietly, without an audience. Disagreement was private. Composure was public. She knew the difference because she watched her mother draw that same line 1,000 times without ever drawing attention to it. Number 6. She never went to a drive-in on a first date. The drive-in was for established couples. A first date meant a proper movie theater, a diner, a dance, somewhere with lights and other people around. The drive-in charged about $1 a carload. The speaker hooked over the car window. The smell of popcorn drifting from the snack bar. The dark. She knew what the drive-in was for, and she was not going there with a boy she barely knew. A first date was the Orpheum or the Rialto. The indoor theater with the red velvet seats and the lights that came up between the newsreel and the feature. She controlled the setting. The setting controlled the expectations. That was not manipulation. It was planning. And she was very good at planning. Number 5. She never went on a date without telling someone where she would be. 14 things. Not one of them required money. Not one required a product. Not one required advice from a stranger on the internet. Every single one required something that cost nothing and is now in desperately short supply. Self-possession. The quiet certainty that how you carry yourself matters more than how you present yourself. Today, the global beauty industry alone brings in over $600 billion a year. Most of it sells women's solutions to problems that did not exist before someone invented them. She did not call it confidence. She did not call it empowerment. She called it getting ready for Saturday night. She told her mother, her roommate, her sister on the telephone, the name of the boy, the name of the restaurant, what time she expected to be home. If nobody was around, she left a note on the kitchen table, written in ballpoint on a scrap torn from the pad by the phone. Going to dinner at Marino's with David Callahan, home by 11. Her mother glanced at the clock at 11:15, then at 11:30. Then the porch light went on. This was not surveillance. This was the net beneath the wire. Women looked out for each other long before anyone built an app for it. A sentence on a scrap of paper and a porch light that stayed on until the door opened. Number 4. She never kept him waiting. She was ready when the doorbell rang. Not almost ready, not 5 minutes away. Ready. The preparation started 2 hours before. Hair set that afternoon, the rollers came out at 5. The dress laid across the bed since morning, shoes polished with a rag. She heard the car pull up at 7:28. By the time the bell rang at 7:30, she was standing in the hallway. One last check in the mirror by the front door, one adjustment to the collar, one touch of the hair. Then her hand on the doorknob. Punctuality was not obedience. It was proof that she took this seriously. She respected his time because she respected her own. A woman who respects her own time does not waste the time of anyone else. She was always ready, always composed, always in control. But there was one moment in the evening when that composure was truly tested. The rule she followed then is one most people today would not believe. Number 3. She never let him see her lose her composure. If the movie was sad, she blinked. If the evening went wrong, a flat tire, a rude waiter, a wrong turn on some dark road, she kept her voice even. She did not fall apart in front of a man she barely knew. A linen handkerchief folded in a square inside her purse. Pressed with a hot iron that morning. Monogrammed, maybe. A gift from an aunt. If the restaurant was closed when they arrived, she smiled and said, "Well, there is always Howard Johnson's." If the rain came down and she had no umbrella, she laughed and walked faster. The handkerchief was for real emergencies, not small ones. Composure was not suppression. It was the decision to show someone only what she chose to show. There is a word for that. The word is power. She had it in quantities that required no explanation. Number 2. She never kissed on a first date. The evening ended at the front door. She said goodnight. She went inside. That was the rule. The walk from the car to the front porch. His hand near the small of her back, barely touching. The porch light on. Her father made certain of that. The yellow glow of a 60-watt bulb behind frosted glass. The pause on the top step. She looked at him. She told him she had a wonderful time. She said goodnight. She turned the knob and stepped inside. The door closed. She leaned against it for one moment in the dark hallway and listened to his footsteps going back to the car, then the engine turning over, then the sound of tires on gravel fading toward the end of the street. She gave him something to come back for, and he came back, because the thing that is delayed is the thing that is remembered. And the thing that is remembered is the thing that lasts. Number 1. She never let him see what it took. 2 hours at the vanity, 3 dresses tried on and put back on the hanger. The rollers, the bobby pins, the slip, the girdle, the stockings, the mascara, the second coat of lipstick blotted on a tissue. All of it invisible by the time the doorbell rang. The bedroom at 5:30 on a Saturday evening. The bedspread covered in rejected outfits. A hairpin curled on the vanity. The slight fog on the mirror from her breath as she leaned in close to check the mascara. A tiny smear of Revlon on the tissue in the wastebasket. A half moon of red, the ghost of a mouth. She smoothed her skirt. She turned once in the mirror. She walked to the door, looking as though she had always looked that way. The greatest thing she ever did was make it look effortless. She never told him. He never asked. That quiet agreement that the work behind the beauty would remain invisible was not dishonesty. It was grace. She carried it the way her mother carried it, without a word, without a single request for credit. She simply arrived at the door, luminous and complete, and let him believe it was easy. 20 things. Not one was about being less. Every one was about being more deliberate, more composed, more sovereign over herself and the evening ahead. She did not need a book or a brand or an influencer. She watched her mother, and her mother watched hers. And the rules passed the same way the good china came down from the top shelf, carefully, silently, and only when it mattered. Somewhere tonight, a girl is getting ready for a date. Her phone is open on the bed. Nobody taught her what that woman knew. Nobody sat her down in the kitchen and told her. It would not hurt her to know what the woman before her knew. She knew what she could not do. But the worst pressure never came from the rules themselves. It came from the judgment that landed when the man beside her was the wrong age, and the people around her had no intention of staying quiet about it. Whispers followed her into rooms she hadn't even entered yet. There was no rule book that could have prepared her for cruelty dressed up as concern. Number 15. She is only after his money. The default accusation. If a young woman was seen with an older man, the first word out of every mouth was money. Gold digger, fortune hunter. The phrase required no evidence. In 1955, a man in his mid-40s earned roughly $4,800 a year. A young woman working as a secretary brought home about $2,600. She could not afford a winter coat from the Montgomery Ward catalog at $18.95 without saving for 2 months. A ring at Zales cost $75 to $125. If he bought her a handbag, the neighbor counted it as proof. If she refused the gift, they said she was playing a longer game. She could not win. The accusation never needed evidence because the jury was already seated. A woman's financial vulnerability was created by the same world that punished her for solving it. But the money accusation was the polite version. What they said about her body was sharper, and they said it lower. Number 14. She must have trapped him. A younger woman used her body to ensnare a man who should have known better. She lured him. She got her hooks in. The language was predatory, and the predator was always her. McCall's and Ladies' Home Journal ran Playtex advertisements promising the figure he wants to come home to. A Revlon lipstick in Fire and Ice cost $1.10 in 1952. Women were told to cultivate beauty every hour of every day, but that beauty was only approved within narrow lines: the right man, the right age, the right occasion. The same beauty she spent her life being told to perfect became the weapon she was accused of using. The trap was not hers. It was the accusation itself. Number 13. What would her father think? The appeal to paternal authority. Any woman dating a much older man had either lost her father's guidance or defied it. Either way, she was fatherless in spirit. Courtship in the 50s had a physical architecture. A young man came to the porch. He shook the father's hand. His car was inspected, his shoes, his employment. Emily Post's Etiquette made it plain. A suitor presented himself to the father first. Now imagine a 40-year-old man walking up that porch to shake hands with a 45-year-old father. The silence in that living room, the clock on the mantel. The question was never about her father. It was about reminding her that her choices still belonged to a man. Number 12. A decent girl would not. A woman who dated a much older man was sorted into a category and the door locked behind her. Decent girls married boys from church, boys their own age, boys their mothers approved. The sorting happened in specific rooms. The church fellowship hall, the PTA meeting, aisle 3 at the A&P where 2 women with shopping carts could do more damage than a newspaper, the neighbor who stopped inviting her for coffee, the Eastern Star chapter that filled her chair, The garden club that met the first Tuesday of every month. Each one ran on the same currency. Reputation. Decent was never a moral standard. It was a membership card, and the dues were obedience. Number 11. He will leave her for someone even younger. The warning dressed as concern. A man who chose a younger woman once would do it again. She was not special. She was a phase. Hollywood reinforced it monthly. Clark Gable married 5 times. Confidential magazine launched in 1952 at 15 cents a copy and built its circulation on the romantic wreckage of older men and younger women. The warning was always delivered gently. Kitchen table, GE percolator, a hand on her arm. I just do not want to see you get hurt, honey. The warning was not about protecting her, it was about predicting her punishment and making sure she knew it was coming. The warnings came from people who loved her. The ones who barely knew her had their own vocabulary, borrowed from medical textbooks. Number 10. There must be something wrong with her, the psychological diagnosis. A young woman who chose an older man was assumed to be damaged, emotionally incomplete. The language came straight from the pop psychology flooding post-war America. Dr. Spock published Baby and Child Care in 1946. 25 cents in paperback. By the early 50s, Freudian vocabulary had reached the kitchen table in Akron, Ohio. Electra complex, father fixation. Ladies' Home Journal ran articles explaining why certain women made certain choices. The explanation was always a diagnosis. The new suburban therapist at $15 a session turned a woman's love life into a case study. They made her choice into a symptom, not a decision. A diagnosis does not need your permission to be applied. Every one of these accusations had the same architecture. They started with her choice and ended with her character. The choice itself was never examined on its own terms. It was only evidence, evidence of damage or greed or manipulation or failure. The woman disappeared behind the verdict. A woman who could be reduced to a motive was a woman who could be controlled. Number 9. She will regret it when he is old, the prophecy. She would become his nurse. She would waste her best years pushing a wheelchair while her friends' husbands played golf at the municipal course. Average male life expectancy in 1950 was 65.6 years. Metropolitan Life published the tables in popular magazines right next to the soap advertisements. If he was 45 when they married, the math gave her 20 years before the decline. A nursing home cost roughly $150 a month in 1955. The image they painted was specific. Pill bottles on the nightstand. Sunday afternoons alone. Nobody warned the young wife of a young husband that he might drink himself silent by 45. The prophecy was selective. It only applied to the woman already marked. Number 8. People will talk. Not a specific accusation, something worse. The invocation of collective surveillance. People will talk meant you are being watched, and you have already been found wanting. The party line telephone. 4 to 8 households sharing a single line. The operator at the exchange who could listen to any call. The beauty parlor where a shampoo and set cost $1.50 and the real business happened under the dryer hoods. The drugstore soda counter at Rexall where the pharmacist knew every prescription in town. In a city like Terre Haute, with over 60,000 people, information still crossed from the east side to the west in under 4 hours. People will talk was not a warning, it was a confession. The speaker was telling her, I am one of the people, and I have already started. Number 7. She will never fit in with his friends. His friends' wives were 15 or 20 years older. She would sit at their dinner parties with nothing to say. Tolerated, never welcomed. Saturday night, 4 couples. Canadian Club whiskey at $4.85 a fifth. Martinis in the chrome shaker. The women discussing teenagers applying to college. Her children not yet born. The potluck rotation and the younger wife bringing a casserole that was the wrong recipe. Seated at the far end of the table, his hand finding hers under the tablecloth. The older woman across the table noticing and looking away. She was not rejected for who she was. She was rejected for when she was born. That is a door no amount of charm can open. His friends judged her quietly over cocktails. Her own friends judged her louder. And the next accusation cut deeper because it came from women who were supposed to understand. Number 6. She just wants a father figure. She did not love him. She was filling a void. The relationship was not a partnership. It was therapy she was too proud to pay for. Father figure entered kitchen table vocabulary by the mid-1950s. Dear Abby launched in 1956. Ann Landers in 1955. Both treated the younger woman as the patient, not the partner. But the diagnosis was not delivered by a doctor. It was delivered by a sister-in-law at Thanksgiving, a co-worker at the shoe factory, the woman in the next pew at First Methodist who said it like she was offering a cough drop. The accusation stripped the relationship of its dignity. It told her that her own feelings were not real, that she was too broken to know the difference between love and need. That is not advice. That is erasure. Notice what every accusation has in common. Not one asked her a question. Not one said, "Tell me about him." Not one said, "Are you happy?" The vocabulary of judgment did not have a word for her experience. It only had words for her error. An entire community could discuss her life for months without considering the possibility that she had chosen freely. That silence was the cruelest thing of all. Number 5. No minister would bless that union, not a scriptural objection. There was no Bible verse against it, but a minister who married them risked his congregation's disapproval. The objection was social, dressed in vestments. Methodist, Baptist, Presbyterian, Lutheran. Church membership determined who brought the casserole when your mother died. The minister's study with the oak desk and the funeral home calendar on the wall. Premarital counseling where the pastor circled the age difference without naming it. A church wedding cost $50 for the sanctuary and $10 for the organist. Some couples drove to the next county for a justice of the peace at $5 because their own pastor declined. The church did not forbid the marriage. It made the marriage feel forbidden. For a woman raised in that pew, that was the same thing. Number 4. His children will never accept her. If the older man was a widower or divorced, the younger woman inherited a family that did not want her. She was the intruder, the replacement, the Thanksgiving table with an empty chair, the first wife's photograph still on the hallway wall, the teenage daughter closer in age to the new wife than to her own father. Christmas gifts chosen carefully and received with a flat thank you. Sunday dinners where conversation moved around her like water around a stone. The casserole that was not the way their mother made it. The pot roast too dry. The pie crust store-bought. She married a man. They told her she married a verdict. And the jury was at the dinner table every night. Number 3. She is ruining her chances. By choosing an older man, she removed herself from the market of age-appropriate suitors. If it ended, she would be older, damaged in their word, and unmarriageable. The median age of first marriage for women in 1950 was 20.3. A woman single at 25 was an old maid, not slang, the actual phrase printed in magazines. She watched her friends' bridal showers from the folding chair. She read the wedding announcements in the paper at $3 to place. Today, the average is 28.6. What was once a death sentence is now a Tuesday. They called it ruining her chances. What they meant was she had spent her only bargaining chip on the wrong hand. In a world where marriage was a woman's only economic future, that was not advice. It was a threat. The threats came wrapped in numbers, years, odds, chances wasted. But the final accusations had nothing to do with arithmetic. They were about something the people saying them could barely name. Number 2. What happens behind closed doors? The sexual insinuation. The whispered suggestion that whatever happened between them was deviant or degrading. The age gap made the intimacy suspect by definition. I Love Lucy premiered in 1951. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz slept in twin beds on camera even though they were married. But America could not stop whispering in private. The Kinsey Report on Female Sexuality came out in 1953 at $8 a copy. It scandalized the country and sold 250,000 copies in 2 months. A nation that could not say the word in daylight spent its evenings speculating at the beauty parlor, the knowing look across the fellowship hall. They would not say what they meant. They only pointed at the closed door and let the imagination finish. The accusation did not need words. Silence was enough. 15 on accusations, and not one was about him. Not his judgment, not his motives. He was experienced. He knew what he was doing. Every whisper and every warning landed on her side of the table. He poured the coffee. She drank the verdict. That was not a flaw in the system. That was the system. Number 1. She does not really love him. She is just afraid of being alone. The worst of all, not that she was greedy or broken or scheming, that she was not capable of real love, that her choice was not love, but fear, that she was too weak to face her own life without someone to lean on. This cut deepest because it struck at the one thing the culture said she was born for: love. Modern Bride launched in 1949 and filled every page with devotion. Patti Page sang Tennessee Waltz in 1950. Rosemary Clooney sang Hey There in 1954. An entire civilization built a mythology around a woman's heart and then told this particular woman that hers was counterfeit. The look on her face the first time she heard it from someone she trusted. The kitchen. The coffee going cold. They could survive the gossip about money. They could outlast the church whispers. But this one, that her love was not real, settled into the chest like a stone and stayed for 40 years. There is no argument that disproves it, no evidence to present. The only proof of love is a life lived, and she was never given credit for that. Somewhere in a small town in 1955, a woman heard every one of these things and married him anyway. Not because she did not hear them, because she decided her own life was not a committee decision. She wore the white dress, she carried the flowers, and she did not explain herself. Not once, not to anyone. Every piece of this video belongs to the same architecture. The exit strategy, the unspoken rules, the first date test, the vanished meeting places, the 60s boundaries, the age gap cruelty. A complete interlocking system where every part reinforced every other part, and a woman who understood the whole of it could navigate courtship with extraordinary precision. What replaced it was not liberation, it was fragmentation. And no combination of dating apps, self-help podcasts, and advice reels has assembled anything half as coherent since. They told you these women stumbled through courtship without a strategy, that modern women invented the playbook. They were wrong. Every rule, every test, every exit in this video was built by women who understood the system better than anyone who replaced them. The knowledge was never lost. It was buried. Now you have it back.